Welcome to another episode of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. What is going on? How are you doing? I just have to stop and take a moment and look over my buddy, my pal, my wing dog. Otis is here with me in the office, and guy's got to go to the vet tonight because he's doing what he's doing right now, and that is chewing on his paws, licking his paws. So, hey, send me some happy thoughts on Otis, please. I feel bad for the guy. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day talking about this, and she said possibly the issue is there's chicken in his dog food. And I guess she was saying that dogs don't handle chicken very well. And my wife was saying, well, that's really ironic because I gave him some cut up chicken and he was actually licking his paws even more. So apparently now we have to switch his dog food to salmon. Dog food with salmon. I hope he gets better. I hope he does. He's such a great dog. And that's what we do. We take care of our dogs. We take care of our pets. Cassie Boyd is on this episode, and she has a YouTube channel and a blog called Share Your Heart. Share Your Heart. And we will be talking about that momentarily. So you're doing good. Are you on a walk right now? Are you on a run? Maybe you're cooking. Maybe you're in your house cooking, and you had your smart speaker play this episode. So thank you. That's really cool of you. Whew. I am dreading the weekend because my wife and I are headed to Colorado Springs to go see family. You feeling me right now? And it's a family reunion. It's so awkward going to family reunions because you're going to see people you know, but you don't remember their names. You don't remember the last time you saw them. You never really associated with them other than maybe some DNA. That's about it. But I'm grateful because I'll get to see my mom and my bonus dad, Dan. Just saw my dad and his girlfriend. Had some great meals together with them. So now I get to see my mom. And I mean, I'm excited about that. I'm excited I get to see my grandmother. I haven't seen my grandmother in about a month. I'm okay with that. I'm okay seeing my mom. I'm okay seeing my bonus dad. I'm okay seeing my grandmother. And there's very few relatives that I'm looking forward to seeing. But then you get in deep into that cousin weeds that you're like, I don't remember you. You don't remember me. You don't have to be, social with me. I get it. Let's just shake hands, hug it out. I don't know. One of the things I plan on doing, is, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I was going through getting ready to go to need to hire a lawyer due to the divorce. We'll say I'm going to keep it very generic, and maybe one day I'll really go into a little bit more depth. But anyway, so at the time I was in between jobs. And I needed some dough to pay the lawyer, and I called up a family member, and it was just poor timing on my part. And so not only did I piss this family member off, but it was just an ugly situation. And anyway, I know this family member. I'm going to see this person this weekend, and I really want to apologize that, it was really bad timing, like I said, and understand where I was coming from. But I just want to apologize to this person and just hopefully they haven't thought about it but again, it's the Catholic guilt I have inside me. That's funny. We'll mention a little Catholic guilt with Cassie, but I have a lot of Catholic guilt on that whole situation. So I want to make amends. I want to just say, hey, I'm sorry that I called you out of the blue asking for thousands of dollars, but it's okay. I've moved on. It all worked out in court, and so excited about that. I will say that it's been a shit show of a week. I really, really, really hate the silent partner. Hate him. Hate it. If the silent partner was a person, I'd want to punch in the face right now. So it was a shit show this week with the silent partner. But, moving on. What else is going on? Talked about Otis, family reunion. Speaking of silent partner, the funniest thing is when people find out you have a podcast, and sometimes what happens is they come up to you and say, "Hey, I should be on your podcast. You should have me on." And I say, "Why?" Well, because. Well, because why? Oh, I'm funny, or I know things. And it's like, okay, do you know what the name of my podcast is? Do you know what the other episodes have entailed? And a lot of times they're like, no, you should just still have me on. So anyway, this friend of mine said, well, could you at least, mention my name? So I'm going to mention his name. Michael Couts, I mention your name. There you go. Thank you, Michael, for the past 2 weeks. Great times. All right. Did that. I don't know where else we're going. So Cassie Boyd has her podcast, and she also writes a blog called Share Your Heart. Check her out on YouTube. And I had a blast with Cassie. Cassie and I have a mutual friend. You've heard Denise on this podcast, and Denise sent me an instant message or something on Instagram. Anyway, said, hey, you should have Cassie on. Cassie's a really great mom. She's got these amazing sons, and she's really good at being positive when it comes to her former spouse. I think that's great, especially when it comes to co-parenting. It's important to have somewhat of a positive relationship. Anyway, so Cassie was just the reason why I do this podcast. It's just a conversation. And I always imagine my guests, just them, you and I, just sitting at a dinner table or sitting at a pub or maybe we're at a breakfast place and we're just learning about each other. I had so much fun with Cassie. I think Cassie and I could have gone hours on end just talking. But one of the things that really inspired me with Cassie was she talks about, on this episode, about lifting up her former spouse for her sons. And you'll hear what that means. Also, what does it mean to be a successful parent? We talk about her journey. We talk about, having conversations with our kids that are a little bit on the adult level, but it's, again, a beautiful opportunity to have that one-on-one with our kids. I am so excited to share this episode with you. I am so... It's going to be one of the favorite episodes. It really is, just because the fact that Cassie and I had never met. We've got this commonality of a good friend of ours, Denise. We rib each other about, she's a Packer fan, I'm a Bear fan. She's from Wisconsin, I'm from Illinois. But it was a lot of fun, and at the same time, very educational. And we jokingly talked about this, but I'm going to tell you, guys, if you're single, you should check Cassie's information out. We kept kidding about swiping right, but she is just a phenomenal lady. And again, this is going to be one of those episodes where I'm just going to relive because of just having so much fun and, talking to another human being about why it's so important for co-parenting to have a positive co-parenting relationship. So there we go. I feel so bad for Otis. Poor guy. Oh, Odie. Hey, Otis. Otis. He's like frozen, knowing that he should be stopped chewing on his paw, but he's not. So stay tuned. Stay tuned, and I'll let you know how the vet appointment goes. All right, there we go. Cassie Boyd. Find her on YouTube. Find her on IG. Find her on the blog space. On LinkedIn. I reminded her she was on LinkedIn too. So, anyway, Cassie Boyd. Check out her YouTube channel, Share Your Heart. And as our good friend, our confidant, our motivational guru, Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. I was going to say something, but never mind. Cassie, number one, thank you for coming on the Blending the Family podcast. Number two, as we were just discussing, we Flatlanders, as my former wife would call me, being from Chicago, and you Wisconsinites, we can get along, and we're about to get along for a good cause. How's that?
I like it. It's perfect.
Yeah. And before I say anything else, go Bears. Anyway,
Don't start. Tell me.
I have to. So here's the first question, Cassie, and that is why are you here? Because our dear friend Denise, aka Denise Lund, now surprise, got married.
I know.
Also a past guest on this podcast. She said, "Tommy, you got to have Cassie on. Cassie, you're here. Why are you here? What's your story? What's your background? What's going on?"
Well, do you want to know my personal background or my professional? Where do you want me to start?
Let's start. Why you're an advocate for parenting and bonus families and blended families and things of that nature.
Well, that's a really great place to start. And it's really dear to my heart because the journey that my ex husband and I went through to get to the point that we're at right now it wasn't easy. And in fact, I was just having a conversation with him last night, talking about this, that I was going to be on your show. And we were just giving constant gratitude to one another for pushing through all the challenges in the beginning and really focusing on our sons. And that is where my heart is, as any parent's heart should be there. And it was always very important to me that my ex husband was lifted up to his sons. So that's the passion, and I'm so glad to know that there's something like this. And I watched your TED talks and listened to some of your podcasts, and I love that you are an advocate to the dads out there. And it's really important that the woman continues to be an advocate for their children's father.
Well, that's beautiful, and I mean that because I just had a conversation a few weeks ago with a good friend of mine named Brett Zachman, but his friends call him Zach, and another good friend of mine, Chris Williams, and we were talking about Brett's organization, Be Men, and even though it's geared towards helping men, the you nailed it right in the head, Cassie, and that is we need women to help us. We need women and moms, to help us carry, the positive fatherhood flag. I love just hearing your brief story about you and your husband talking about gratitude. I mean, I, I don't I don't think to use me as an example, I don't think my former wife and I are and it's been since 2008. And as everybody knows in this podcast, I don't do math, but it's been a long time since the divorce. And so I get to be a innocent bystander with my wife and how she has grown with her former spouse, and they are, I would say, amicable. I would say that would they go out for coffee? Probably not, but they are have matured in all the years of their divorce, and I think that's a great goal, really, to have is the co-parenting piece is key, but at the same time, building a relationship with your former spouse.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Another thing we were chatting about, to tack on to what you're saying, is last night we were talking about how many families, exes, if you will, hop in a van with my ex-husband, his wife, current wife,
Hmm.
our two sons, and myself, to go to his oldest son, who's 2 years older than our oldest son, who's always been a son, never a stepson, his graduation, and stay with his ex of his oldest son's mom. So we had my ex, myself, his current wife, and his ex, and all of the kids together at Logan's graduation. And
Wow.
yeah, to accomplish something like that, you just, that's the goal. That is the goal. And I think every male, female, husband, wife going through a split, the first thing that should be talked about is how are we going to continue to grow our young adults without conflict between us. We have to separate our own stuff and get out of our own way because it's about them.
Yeah, and it's really hard, especially in my view, when you're going through those early stages of the separation and the divorce. And it's, again, in my point of view, it seems that it's a who's better, how can I outparent the other parent, and
Yeah.
um, just trying to be the better parent when you're not being the better parent, when you're not thinking of the kids, when you're just putting the ego forefront versus taking a step back and saying, all right, what is best for the family?
Hmm. Yeah, best for the unit. And again, like I said, Tommy, though, it did not go without challenges. And he and I talk about that all the time. But one of the most beautiful things is when we pushed through our stuff and moved out of our way, our own way, for our kids, we would sit and talk about how did each one of us contribute to something not working. Because if you nothing changes if nothing changes. So you know that your ex, you are going to go into another relationship, hopefully. But if you don't work through the things that didn't work, it's the definition of insanity. You're doing the
Hmm.
same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So to have that opportunity to be able to talk with him and say, you know what, here's how I contributed. I'm going to be accountable, because the only place you can look is in the mirror. You can't point fingers, but that's the first thing we want to do, like you said, when we split, is to point the finger as to this is what you did, this is what you didn't do, but you have to turn around, point the finger back at yourself, and take accountability.
So, what was that awakening moment for you and your former spouse? What was that moment of having the truth?
That's a great question. I really believe I'm a fighter, meaning I was the fighter, and I think I said that to you in the email. There has to be somebody that's the fighter that pushes for that unity eventually. And he will say that he had moments, more moments, that he doesn't, nobody wants to have those moments, but I really believe it is his wife, having her balancing, because she doesn't have a great relationship with her children, because she has an ex that they can't come to a common ground. So she's seen the hurt she's gone through, but I think her really encouraging and helping him to have unity for all of us, I really have to say Jen had a lot to do with that on his end.
That's a great point because I
I firmly believe that my wife Ann, has really helped me in those times where I really want to send off a nasty email. My wife would go, "Is it really worth it?" And I'm like, "Well, in the moment, but no." Or then I'll hear in the back of my head my mom going, "Careful, she's just renting space." And I'm like, I know. So, it's difficult because, as Dr. Wayne Dyer always talked about, you know, humans need to have a egoectomy and remove the ego. And I really think that if you can take your ego out of, a divorce situation where you just put the kids first and the kids' needs first, and not worry about the little things. And it's hard. I mean, I talk a lot about this with other people that I'm on other podcasts about, and that is stoicism.
Mm,
And I really wish I had discovered stoicism a long time ago, but I'm very truly blessed that one of my mentors gave me the Ryan Holiday book. Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hansmel. I cannot talk. The Daily Stoic. And there are a lot of times where, just understanding that I can't control that other person, and they have, their own baggage, they have their own issues going on, and just letting things go
mhm.
took me a long, long time to really say, okay, have those USA moments, just let it go, and just not worry about what you are trying to control, worry about what is in your space.
Exactly. 9 times out of 10, I find that responses that you receive from someone have absolutely nothing to do with you and all to do with what you've been through, what the other person has been through. So, we already carry around when we go through a divorce a feeling of, what did I do? Are my kids going to be okay? Is this going? I'm writing my next blog um, to send off, and it's about this because you've prompted me with asking me to be on the show. But what did I do? Is it my fault? Are my kids going to be failures? Are they going to get into a relationship and do the same thing? So we have that guilt in the background of already of the divorce. And then when you have your partner coming at you and even using your children as a weapon, the response is not going to be pretty because they're already feeling bad. So if we take a step back and say, all right, I'm feeling bad, you're feeling bad, let's come together to get rid of the feeling of bad and just rejoice in what good there is, and that's our children. So it just keeps coming full circle back to those kids because we want them to do better than what we've done.
Have you um uh, one of my past guests recommended I do this, and I did this, and I was really hoping to do it again, but I totally spaced it out. I was too wrapped up in the moment. But one of the things that was recommended, I think Jason Kreidman of Dad University said, have a one-on-one with your kids,
Yeah.
and just simply ask them, how are you as a parent doing?
Ooh.
It's hard because you want to hear only the good, but
Mhm.
that there are things that, it's like any dreaded day job. You show up to work, and you're just trying to be productive, but you still want to know, how are you doing? And as a
Mhm.
parent, it's it's one of those things where it's hard, again, to hear the truth. So I don't know if you've done this, Cassie, but maybe that's just something to put out to not only you but the listeners, is just have that one-on-one. Like I said, I was my son and I were up in the UP, Upper Peninsula, for you non-geometry majors. Um, Thank you for laughing at that. It was, he and I for a week, and we spent time up in Michigan, and then spent a few days in Chicago, and I really wanted to have that captive audience. And I, it's not that I spaced out, it was more of, I'm just enjoying this moment. Just let everything just happen organically. But I still think that it's not a bad idea to sit with our kids and again have those one-on-ones and just say how can I improve as a parent.
That's very beautiful, and it's a very, very good suggestion. We actually, my boys and I, they still live with me right now. One is getting ready to fly the nest in 2 weeks, but we have conversations every day. I work from home. So every morning, my youngest son comes in and shares his dreams. We talk about he teaches me so much. He's 21 years old. And the cool thing about what I've learned with him and what you're talking about, this opportunity, he has taught me, and I don't come back at it saying, "Oh, I'm the adult and you're the child." I come in saying, "Wow, Nolan, you know what? You're right. I need to do that differently. I thank you for that." And I encourage my boys to visit their dad. Their dad and his wife live in Hawaii, and that's where that picture was taken. That Denise initially recommended us chatting, and they get the opportunity individually when they're there to sit and do that with their dad. So that, and they talk to their dad at least, I'm going to say 3, 4 times a week. When something comes up, it's a check in with dad, and we both encourage it with each other. So I highly recommend sitting down with your kids and saying something like that to them and just listening. Be still. Don't be so quick to respond. I mean, there are 4 different levels of listening, and we hope for the ultimate listening where we're sitting face to face, eye to eye, with nothing going on in our brain, not trying to think of something else to say while they're talking, but truly giving them that 100% attention and validating their recommendations, because our kids are coming into this world bigger, better, faster. And I mean spiritually. They're just at a different level spiritually. And if you embrace that, boy, you create some amazing individuals.
I'm gonna piggyback on speaking to our kids like adults. So um, my one bonus daughter Becca and I was going through I was having some severe back issues, and I had her drive us to go pick up my son Connor from hockey one night. And it was getting close to, she was on the cusp of 16 to 17. Connor was getting on the cusp of 15 to 16. And I was asking her, I said, I need some help because you're in this situation. You've been in this situation where, you have a divorced family and you've got, the kids bouncing from one house to another house. And, when the kids are starting to drive, now they're getting some more responsibility. Now they're getting some independence. And I was asking Becca her opinion on what should I do with Connor as far as, you know, do I keep telling him he has to come up, his every other weekend, or am I going to be a little bit more flexible? And she goes, no, you make sure he keeps coming up every other weekend. And it was just a beautiful
Oh,
adult conversation moment because again, I couldn't really understand. I mean, even though my parents were divorced, and yeah, when I was 16 I drove, but I didn't, honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time with my dad even when I had the ability to drive a car. So with that conversation with Becca really opened my eyes because I really wanted their point of view because they live it. They go from the house to house, and I wanted just to make sure that it was a benefit and that wasn't adding on to stress. And so it's one of my favorite moments of being a bonus dad is just having those open-ended conversations where you can have an adult conversation, and it really helped.
I love that. How cool. That's so beautiful.
Well, I'm very blessed that
Hmm.
um all three of our kids, get along. I mean, they really are. they really could be blood,
Yeah.
brother and sisters. And so it's it's a good dynamic. Um, I go back to my wife Ann and I in that, our intentions were always to put the kids first, but, and I say but because when we first started dating, we wanted to make sure that we were compatible and didn't want to rush into anything. Especially, you don't want to set the kids up, going, if they're getting along with the person you're dating and then things go by the wayside, what is that going to do to their psyche? And so
Hmm.
Ann and I really wanted to, put our relationship in the forefront. And then we also had a mantra that, um, we waited for the kids to meet. We did it at um, an outdoor ice skating rink up here in Loveland, because it was a neutral site. It didn't put any pressure on the kids. If they didn't get along, no big deal. Everybody can go their separate ways. But I also had a conversation with my wife and I said, listen, if the kids don't get along, we really shouldn't continue this relationship because that's not fair to them. And she agreed. And I get looks when I tell people that, if it's in a presentation or if it's in a podcast or if it's just one on one at a pub, they look at me, or I can feel that they're looking at me like I have a third eye. But if you're going to have a positive, successful blended family, in my opinion, that's where it needs to start, is making sure that you're not creating a hostile environment before you put everybody under the same roof.
Oh my goodness, Tommy. And this could be a whole other show. This is why I'm still single.
Oh, is that should we put out your dating profile too in the show notes for you, Cassie? Because we can do that.
Oh my goodness. Like I said, it could be a whole other show.
Everybody, just start swiping right for Cassie, okay? Is it swipe right or it is right? Right? I don't know. I don't.
It is right. You're
Okay.
lucky. No, trust
Yeah,
me.
I
Um,
am.
no, that's why, because I have this level, and I get the look of a third eye. Also, I have this level of expectation, because we do. I mean, it's one of my blogs too, talking about expectations. But my boys have an amazing father, and he raised them. He stayed home with them. He homeschooled them, and I was the breadwinner. And kind of similar to your situation, if I remember correctly, watching your TED Talks, right?
Hmm.
So anybody that comes into my world has to come in at a level of so much. And I may be setting myself up for failure, but I truly believe that I have put my foot down in there, and I'm good with me. Like, I'm grounded in myself. I love who I am. I love my career. I feel blessed every day that I wake up. And I will not allow something to interfere the vibe that we've built, and it's taken a while to get to. I just won't interrupt that. So I agree with you.
Can I get that in writing?
I just pricked my finger. It could be blood,
Oh,
brother.
there you go.
Touch the
We'll
screen.
we'll create unity between the Wisconsin Illinois borders right here and now.
Right.
Um, I wrote this down and I forgot to go back to it, but something you said earlier was you're talking about lifting up your former spouse through the boys.
Mm.
Can you unwrap that? What does that mean?
I just, I don't know. I was just reminding them of what a great daddy is, and how fortunate we are, because, you see situations. They have friends that have parents that don't get along. And again, Lucas and I were talking about this last night. He'll be talking to somebody, their friends there in Hawaii, and be all like, "Oh my God, their mom is amazing. Like, she's so successful. She's such a great mom." And every single person comments, "Wow, that's really great to hear you speak to us about your former wife in such a positive manner. And it's the same thing. We just have this thing back and forth. And it's true. We're not making anything up because we're both really great people. He's a great dad. I'm a great mom. So why not just, we always have such gratitude. Like the boys and I will talk about, oh, can you imagine if, what if we had to deal with static and dad wasn't positive and I wasn't positive? Like you would not be the calm spirits that you are if we didn't raise each other up. Lucas was saying last night, he goes, every time I get off the phone, go hug your mom, go hug your mom. And sure enough, and I didn't know he was doing that, but the boy, like Nolan or Cameron would get off the phone, and then Nolan would come running downstairs, Mom, I love you. And now I know why. I just found out. So that's what I mean by raising him up. We do it for each other.
That's awesome. I mean, I really don't know anybody in my inner circle that would, say that, hey, go hug your dad after this call, or go hug your mom after this call. You know, that's you you and your former spouse are setting such a great precedent for your boys
Yeah.
on when they're in relationships, and being around other people, not just opposite sex, but just around other
Mhm.
people. I think you two are just crazing wow creating. It's the vaccine.
Is that creating a crazy together?
I think so. I just made up a new word. I'm coining it. I'm trademarking it. I'm putting on T-shirts and bumper stickers. So
You
get ready.
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Whoo, that the two of you are creating, um, you know, well-rounded young men.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Another thing we do, it's not just the positive too. It's, here's something like individually we talk about this with our boys. Here's something that I did that didn't work, or here's something that your dad and I did that didn't work. Don't do this, or learn from this experience. Let us be your teachers as to how to do it differently, because you gotta, not everything's all daisies and roses. That you have to address the elephants in the room, and there are. And so if you address them with love and a positive outcome, it just makes it much sweeter.
Can you give an example that comes to mind about the mistakes?
mm, Boy, um, I would have moments in the beginning, and they were younger then, so we'll circle back around to those moments. I don't know how it'll come up in conversation where, I had this moment where all I wanted to do was call him up. Like you said, you wanted to send that email and say, this happened. So we're not lying about things, if there was infidelity, whatever that may be, because stuff happens, but there has to be forgiveness within it. And here's how we handled it. We both had a conversation about it. We apologized to one another. And we want you not to do something like that, or think about it, or come to one of us if you're ever in a situation like that where you're with your partner and something like that comes up. You can remember that mom and dad went through this, and this is how they taught us to get through it. Or we can go to talk to them about it. So having that open door of communication, like you were saying, talking to your bonus daughter as an adult, so it carries over, because we never talked to our children as when they were little, like right?
Mm-hmm.
As we spoke to them as little humans. So they've always been used to that. So why stop now?
It's funny you say that. So last night, um, my wife's. I feel like I need a baseball scorecard on this. My wife's nephew's son,
Okay.
Liam, who's just over one. Um, Liam's mom was in town because you might be aware that last night the uh,
All star.
the All Star game. Thank you.
Yep.
The All Star game's happening, and her family has season tickets, so they were going, and we got to babysit Liam. And I caught myself before I did it. We were all sitting at the dinner table, eating, and I wanted to do that little baby talk. I'm thinking, no, I don't want to. I want kids to hear the correct words.
Right.
And one of the things I was trying to teach Liam was, we have our dog Otis, who was so jealous last night. I've never seen him so jealous, but it was so cute. And I wanted Liam to understand, this is a dog treat. We give it to the dog, so he hears the words versus like you were saying, Cassie. Oh, here's a little tweety tweet, and we're gonna play with the puppy puppy. It's like, no, what's that doing for our kids?
Exactly. Absolutely nothing. It really isn't. Yeah, and I think that's why our sons, one of the many reasons, because with my with their dad, with Lucas, homeschooling them, and I mean, what I felt so blessed that those boys were able to have their dad around all the time, and that I could go grow my career and grow our family. And they are so grounded. I always say they are so grounded because of him as young men. Now I know I contributed, but man, I give 95% of it to him because he just and I get teary-eyed. um he did good. He did really good. So and he continues to do good. It was a blessing.
Well, it's in realistically human nature, Cassie. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to give credit to your former spouse, but if I remember years ago when Connor was still in grade school, and one of his teachers sent out an email saying what a wonderful student he is and great kid, and I'm like, I just turned it. I said, I'm going to give all the credit to his mom. I mean, his mom is there. She's the one helping him with the homework. I mean, she's the one that's taking care of him. So I want to give, all the credit to her. Now, my ego said, all right, she's going to respond back. Still waiting for that email to come back, Cassie, but that's okay. It's okay because at the end of the day, if our kids are just good citizens,
hmm
we've done well.
We have, and you know what, Tommy? I think you have to remember that she is, but she may just not be in a space ever to verbalize it. But I'm sure in her heart there's gratitude for your words.
I'll take your word for it.
Word.
Word. There you go. Word to your former spouse. So let's talk about Share Your Heart, your YouTube channel, your blog. Why was it 2021? Why was it when you decided to create this content?
Great question. I opened my first, and I'm going on my third one right now. I've gotten a little behind because I've been kind of busy, but it's been on my heart, no pun intended, for a while. I have this thing after my mom passed away. I asked her to let me know when she was present. And at first, I didn't realize it was her. And I started seeing hearts everywhere, like in everything. Even walking on a walk, there was dog poop that someone stepped on in the shape of a heart. I mean, go figure. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's how crazy it is. Like, I see them everywhere. So, I started this hashtag hearts everywhere on my social media. And every time I'd see a heart, I'd share it and share the story. And then other people started seeing hearts. So they started sending me their hearts. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I thought I'm gonna do a book called Pouring Out Your Love. So I have all these different hashtags because one day my protein shake spilled, and it spilled in the shape of a heart that was spilling out into this big round circle below it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the name of the book, Pouring Out Your Heart. So I'm working on
Mm,
that right now. But it called to me that it's really important to share challenges that you go through, but share how you got through them. And so I thought, I'm going to just start interviewing random people with stories that of struggle, whatever it may be, sexual abuse, physical abuse, adoption, heart disease, whatever challenge that they went through. but share how you got through it. And there's got to be somebody out there who's stuck and unfortunately don't realize they're being a victim, but we don't have to be a victim. But they may hear something that helps them move out of that and persevere. And that was just my goal, to just help other people. It's just really important to me to be good to people and to lift people up. So that's how Share Your Heart started. And it's interesting because I was talking to Lucas last night in our conversation. I'm actually, to tack off of this podcast that we're doing right now, I'm going to interview Jen and Lucas and talk about our story
Hmm.
and kind of promote it with your podcast too at the same time. So that's the next Share Your Heart. My blog started just because I want to write another book. So, and I know you've written books, and boy, it takes a minute. It really does. Like, it is a labor of love.
Yes.
They may come to
Yes.
you for some helpful hints from Heloise off offline. But my book, I thought someone had said to me, if you start blogging, you could kind of take that, and I have
Right.
someone who can put it together for me and piecemeal it from there. So that's how I started my blog. And I started my blog literally in 2015. And it's kind of inconsistent as life can be with as we get busy. But I've started it back up again. I travel a lot for work, so when I'm on the plane, it's typically when I'm flying that things will come to me, and I'll just start putting it in my phone, and there will be my blog created. So that's kind of how those both started. They go hand in hand, and it's really helping other people. Being raw, I'm very raw. I don't know if you've read any of the blog. There's a lot about dating.
I got the title for the next one. Swipe right. Swipe
Swipe
right.
right. There you go. Um, so just being raw, because not a lot of people, I think if they hear you being raw and open and opening yourself up and being vulnerable, that they may be like, oh, she did it, so I can do it too.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through my divorce, I was very similar situation, Cassie. It was every Sunday I was flying from DIA to LaGuardia Airport at the time, and same thing. I'd have my laptop open and I would just start blogging, and I took those early blogs and just threw them into an ebook. And looking back, I'm going, yeah, there's a lot of spelling errors and punctuation. I'm
Yeah.
like, but that's okay. But that's okay because to me, it represents where I was at the time. And we're not perfect. We're as humans, we are so infallible. And so I was talking. Oh no, it was my business coach was doing like I think it was a lunch and learn, and he was talking about his first books or most of his books. He said, "Yeah, there's spelling errors in there, there's punctuation, but you know what? At the end of the day, that's okay. We're
Mhm.
we're all we're we all are missing a punctuation or a letter here or there these days anyway."
It's so true. And I know I look back at my blogs from 2015 and I'm like, wow. Now I write them up in my phone and I send them off to a friend of mine who edits them and fixes it all and sends it back. I'm like, all right.
I'll give you my favorite uh, app on my laptop, and it's on my phone too, is Grammarly.
Oh, all right. I'm writing it down.
Grammarly is awesome because for this last book, the editors now have. My hope is that I can do as much editing that I can, and
Hmm.
then once it gets in their hands, they have to do less editing, and then we can get the book out a lot quicker.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I love
And
that.
the other tip I'm gonna give to anyone who's going to put a podcast out, get your podcast transcribed because, like you were saying, Cassie, that can become a book as well.
Oh, very good hot tip. Very good. I love that. I never even thought
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Cassie, when this podcast goes out, I'll send you to the transcription for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're
Welcome.
gonna have to let me know how to shout this out on social media so everybody can hear it.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. And that's where my mind, is always thinking of, social media as far as getting, that's why I created this podcast essentially was to, help spotlight, you know, like you're talking about your YouTube channel, just showcasing and spotlighting people that, have gone through struggles, but how did they get through it? And, that's why I created the podcast was to, show that, we all know parenting isn't easy. We all know that, especially with divorce and blended families, that it's a different beast. And that's why I wanted to put something together to really help people out there and bring people on like yourself, even though you're from Wisconsin, that can help so many people with with your YouTube channel, with your blog writing, with your books. I mean, it's funny because my wife will have to remind me about the phrase, well, I get to. And you're talking about traveling. I mean, that's what I do as well. I'm I as I like to call it now, my silent partner. Instead
Mm.
of the dreaded day job, they're my silent partner. Because without a silent partner, I can't afford to put this podcast together or, produce books and things like that.
Mm.
And so, when I'm, struggling on a Sunday going, oh, crap, here we go again. I got to pack. I got to, set the alarm for 3 a.m. and all that. And she's like, but you get to. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. And it's like parenting. You get to. You get I mean, again with little Liam last night here at the house. I mean, I I uh I was a stay-at-home dad and I miss those days, but after last night I'm going, I don't miss those days. I mean, this kid had energy. I've got energy kid. I've got a dog who's jealous. I'm just like, I just want to watch the baseball game. That's it. But
I'm
it's okay.
exhausted.
Yeah.
It's so true though. Yeah, I can't imagine having a toddler right now. Oh, and that's another thing on the other show that we could do. It's like dating guys who are younger. Like they come with younger bonus children. And just the thought of that is
All right, Cassie. So, without totally going behind the curtain, we had some technical difficulties. But the last thing you were just talking about was, dating a younger man, so to speak. So remember, guys, swipe right. And I was thinking of a story. Well, not really a story. It was real life. And I'm going to embarrass my dad because I know my dad listens to the podcast, which is crazy, but I love it. And the thing is, my dad dated somebody who was relatively young and relatively around my age, and talk about a very uncomfortable situation. Hearing the two of them talking about uh, um, them dating still gives me the creeps thinking about it. Even though she was a nice person, but yeah. So therapy really didn't help that situation. I just want to say thanks, Dad.
it's really fun to hear that come from your mouth, being in that situation because I I was engaged back in 2014 to a gentleman 19 years younger than me, closer to my son's age than to my age. And my boys just looked at me. And I think that was one of the only relationships that I've had since my divorce. Like I may have had one other. But when he came to the house and met the boys, they were like, Mom. And I felt like the child. I felt like my adult children were looking at me like, can we have a talk, please? Mom, go to timeout. You're just going to seconds. But yeah, that obviously didn't work. And nothing against dating younger guys. And now we're getting on a whole swipe right thing. So it's totally off topic. But it was very good to hear your share being in that position.
Well, it's still a good valid point when it comes to divorce and dating. And
Very.
I remember the um, so for me, when I got divorced, I didn't want to date. I want to say I'm an anomaly when it comes to things, and what I mean by that, Cassie, is I have no problems going to therapy.
Hmm.
I'm a guy. I have no problem saying to my guy friends, "I love you." I've got two dear friends. That's how we end our conversations. Again, I'm an anomaly. When it again came time to after the divorce, you think like right before we start recording, you were like saying you're at the buffet of life, and it's just a great day, and that's what I was thinking too, going, ha ha ha, all right, I'm gonna hit the dating scene, I'm gonna be that single guy, just, and I'm like, no. I know me, Cassie. I have no pickup lines. Not to say that pickup lines are always good, but as the kids would say, I had no game.
No doubt.
Luckily, I realized I probably should be working on myself and spending as much quality time with my son. So luckily for me, again, I'm not a player, so that's a good thing. But I remember saying to my former spouse that um, how do I put this without getting myself into trouble, was that she already knew there was somebody else. She knew that I was not uh, the guy anymore, and so I begged her. I said, "Well, don't just introduce your new friend to our son. You've got to take time." And so um, I mean, it worked out for them, but at the same time, you just take a step back and I mean, luckily we all have seen those friends, Cassie, that and you go, "You're dating who? What?
Right.
What are you serious?"
Exactly. There's that. And again, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, what I just shared is is anybody going to be good enough? Like, I almost feel like I really can't start that part of my life truthfully until both of my boys are set on their way and I'm by myself.
But is that fair to you?
Good question, is it? I don't know.
Only you know, right?
Exactly. I mean, I've been fine so far, but I am getting to that point where I'm like, it would be nice to let someone into my world. And I don't think it has anything to do with my sons because they love me no matter what and they're going to be honest. But it's all has to do with me and my perception of am I a good mom if I do that? And it's so crazy how we hang on to that, you know? Yes, you're a good mom. Yes, you're a good dad. We have to give ourselves permission, I guess.
We have to give ourselves permission, but at the same time, is it something? I, this is one of the things I'm so blessed with my wife, because she'll see moments where I'm not. I call it my fog, when I'm going through a little bit of depression, and she'll remind me that you are a really good dad when I'm having those moments. So, is it possible, not to play armchair psychiatrist, but is it possible? Um, I've spent enough time in therapy, so maybe I can be. Um, is it that maybe you need to hear it more from your close circle to say to you, "Cassie, you're a great mom. You're a great person. Go find somebody," or have somebody swipe right and find you. I mean, is that a possibility?
I bet it definitely is. Yeah. Wow. These checks in the mail, Tommy. I'm serious.
No, no, for you, this is no checks,
Stop.
cash only.
What's your Venmo?
Oh, I don't do Venmo. I'm not that cool. My wife does it. I'm not that cool.
I'm still old school PayPal guy.
Okay, I've got that too. It's on its way. But it's really true. Yeah, so there's that second piece. It's getting to the point where you're blending the families and all is well. And then it's the giving yourself permission to create your own family.
Yeah, and
Hang around.
and I really, after us talking and building our relationship, your sons are on your side, and I really think that you do have to give yourself permission, but at the same time, how wonderful will it be to see your boys seeing you happy and being a part of that. And I'm not saying that you know it- we're recording this on a Friday now, that you're going to hit the bars and you're going to bring the boys with you,
Right.
and you know hey, which one do you want to call daddy this week? I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, how your sons would really love to see, and not to speak for your boys, but as somebody who was raised by a single mom, and yeah, I'll admit my mom dated some. God, again, thank you, therapy. But I'm truly blessed that she ended up marrying my bonus dad, who is just an awesome guy. And so uh, the point here, if I come up with one, please, listeners, Tommy at blendingthefamily.com, is people want to see other people happy, and especially somebody who's doing great work, such as yourself, Cassie. And I know our dear friend Denise would love to see Cassie happy. And so what I'm trying to say, Cassie, is give yourself permission, or we're giving you permission. How's that? You know what? Forget you. This isn't about you anymore, Cassie. This is about us and our happiness and wanting you to be happy. So gosh darn it, go be happy. Darn it.
And people like you.
And people like you. Can you tell I've
You
had
know,
coffee today?
oh my gosh, I love it. You know what though? You know, I'll love the joking, but all of that's so true. Like when you said that, something in me went like there was like a release. There was like a okay, because I'm such a giver that if I can flip the switch and say they want to see me happy and would love nothing more to see their mom loved and honored and in a relationship, and to feel that, that makes me feel like I'm doing something good for them. It's just crazy how we work, but that really flipped the switch for me. So thank you for that. You're right.
You're welcome. And this is going to sound like a really odd question, but there's actually a point to it. Other than the other questions I ask, and that again, this is going to sound really weird, but are you Catholic?
I am not. No,
Oh,
I am saved, but I was not born Catholic.
I was thinking it was Catholic guilt, because I have the rage. I have Catholic guilt rage. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
it is a
yeah,
thing.
it
I know.
is.
Hmm.
See, that's what I was thinking. That was me thinking, oh, Cassie's got that Catholic guilt in her, saying, oh, everybody else can be happy except for me.
But generally, I am happy. I think that's the one piece in my world that's still waiting to be com- fulfilled. There's just that one piece. Everything else, life is amazing. I wake up every day so grateful to be alive.
Yeah, and it's a great way to set the tone. I mean, I remember I had a boss who told me, and years later I read it in the book The Last Lecture, and both uh, really spoke to me. And that is, we have two choices every day. And in the last lecture, I don't know if you read that book, but in the last lecture, Dr. Randy Pouch, I think is his last name. I always screw up his last name. But he would say, you have two choices. You can wake up being a Tigger, or you can wake up being an Eeyore. You decide.
I have heard about that book now that you said that.
it's one of those books I have bought, met somebody, and if it's in my backpack, I've given it away, given away,
Hmm.
given away. It's just a powerful book, and it to keep piggybacking on the dating thing is if you're dating somebody that doesn't make you happy and you're not happy, it you have to have that innateness to say, okay, time to move on.
Yeah. Well, I have no problem with that. That's why I'm still single.
Okay, all right, here I go again.
I'm a
Are
tough cookie.
are you afraid to get hurt?
That's probably it.
Okay, all right. So I'm 2 for 2.
You are 2 for 2. What is going on right
I
now?
don't. It's the caffeine. I've had
Who
coffee today.
are you? Oh, this is great, though. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because um, as I was saying before we were recording, my wife said, "Hey, we need a speaker today," and um, I had to put together. I woke up at 1 o'clock this morning in a panic, going, "All right." I knew what I want to talk about, and so the topic is going to be about coaching. Why coaching is so important to people. I mean, you've got professional athletes that have coaches. You have, um, business leaders that have coaches. Why shouldn't we also have coaches? I mean, when I started, the way I started this podcast, I had a coach. I had a podcast coach walk me through it. And there are people in our lives that are such influencers. And I look at our friend Denise. I mean, Denise is not only talked me off of ledges, I know she's banging her head talking to me going, "What why are you doing that? You know you should be doing this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Denise." So it's okay for us to, you know, go through life, but I think we need and maybe coaching isn't the right word. Maybe cheerleaders. Maybe we need to
Mhm.
start hiring cheerleaders, and when we get out of bed every day, you got a cheerleader going, "Way to go, you got out of bed. Yes, it's gonna be a great day. The coffee's already made. Let's go." And maybe that's what we need some days.
Yeah. Just you are 10 and 10, and it is really true. You know what, those really, when you say that, um, again, it's like a click, a light, because I've always had this, okay, marriage didn't work out. Do I want to do that again? Do I want to fail? Am I going to fail at that? I am good. I am my own coach. But you get tired, and sometimes you want to pass the baton in the relay. So it just is all about timing. When are you tired enough that you're going to open yourself up to have that coach to pass the baton to, someone to be there for you and, ignite you and you ignite them.
Yeah. What the pain point? What's the pain point?
Yeah, yeah. What is the pain point? Yeah. But I think that I'm crossing over, and everything happens for a reason. There's a reason that Denise, beautiful, amazing, powerful Denise, she is just, her story is incredible. How she brought us together. And the words that you're saying are just right in alignment with what I've been personally going through and opening myself up to, allowing that happiness. So this is really great.
Well, I'm happy we did this, and you're right. There's I sorry, my dog is looking at me. He's outside. I'm here in my office, and and that just brings me joy. Is when he's just staring at me. It's just like
Oh,
I just there are times where like we've talked about, where my wife has had to remind me that you get to, and today's one of those moments where I get to talk to you, Cassie. And right before this, I was recording with another gentleman. Derek Reynolds, who runs he's called Hug-A-Dad, and his pain point was he wasn't able to see his son because he wasn't uh, he and the woman that had the baby, they weren't able, he wasn't able to see his son, so he started
Oh,
this Hug-A-Dad thing, and so it's beautiful because I get to speak to other people and hopefully share their stories with others that might have some pain point going, oh, okay, maybe it's time for me to do X. And
yes.
and it goes back to your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
sharing your heart and or share your heart, right?
Yes, share your heart.
um, you know, in your hashtag, hearts everywhere. And, there are people that are on, a journey and they might not feel that they have that cheerleader, they don't have that coach. But if they had somebody such as you, Cassie, where they're watching going, oh, I'm not that bad off, you know,
Right.
we all think that, you know, we are, but we're not.
Mm-mm. It's so true. And that's such a great point, and exactly why I do. So it's really cool to be on the other end of it. So I am on my Share Your Heart as you are on your podcast. You're interviewing and you're making those opportunities happen for other people to hear it. But it's really interesting. And I do that in the profession. Like when I was behind the chair full time as a hairstylist, I heard story after story, and I blessed people, and I listened, and I would share experiences. But I'm sitting now on the other end of it, and you're asking me, and I'm like, oh, huh, yeah. You're Tommy, you're making me be vulnerable right now.
Silly me.
So it's kind of cool though. So we need that, we need that, passing the baton, as I said.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing my heart.
Oh, you're welcome. And again, I'll send you my PayPal link. Anyway, so before I give you the last question, Cassie, please let the listeners know how to, watch your YouTube or get a hold of you, and maybe they need some advice. I know I'm always looking for advice on my hairstyle.
Ah, yes, I would love to share that. So I have a blog, and it's called Cassie Does Blogging dot blogspot.com. It was kind of like Debbie Does Dallas, but Cassie Does Blogging. I don't know if anybody's gotten that or not, but that's how it started.
I got it. That's
And,
awesome.
and then there's my YouTube channel, which is Share Your Heart. I'm also on Instagram at Cassie Lee 45, all one word, and then on Facebook at Cassie Carter Boyd. So I'm always sharing positive things. I'm sharing silly things that my sons say to me, inspiring. I try to stay, not try, I am, and it's a point to stay very inspiring. And now, Tommy, I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And you're on LinkedIn too, aren't you?
Oh, I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I don't know. You are a LinkedIn dude, man.
I am.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. What am I on LinkedIn? I don't even
I
know.
think it's your name.
Cassie Carter.
Yeah,
No, sorry, Cassie Boyd.
yeah.
Carter's my name. Yeah,
It's a good thing you have me.
I'm so grateful.
All right, Cassie.
Mhm.
All right, here's your last question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked that I did not ask you? If you could step into my shoes, Cassie, what would you have asked that I did not ask?
Wow. Um, that's tough because you do a really good job. You need to pat your podcast coach on the back. Um, okay, so although I believe that everything happens for a reason, But if you could shift one thing that you did in your marriage differently, what knowing now what you know, what do you think you would have shifted if you had the opportunity to shift it?
And the answer is
I would have been more attentive intimately with my ex-husband.
so in order to get love, to give love.
Correct. Yeah. I was busy working. So, The Proper Care and Feeding of Your Husband is a book that was written by what's her face? A lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but there's a rhythm to men that I think sometimes we can forget as women. Um, and it goes down to our love languages. So find out what your hubby's love language is, what your partner's love language is, because 9 times out of 10, you're filling up their cup with what yours is, and they're lacking and they're doing the same. So communicate about what your needs are.
If you could, what, and you don't have to be descriptive, uh, what would be the one, maybe one thing that you could share as an example of looking at what you would have changed?
Um, I think it would be more time together as boyfriend girlfriend, taking time away from the parenting and the everyday stuff, and remembering what brought you together when you first met, and go there at least once a week. It doesn't have to be going out, but it just has to be something fun. Don't lose the fun. I think it gets lost.
It's funny you mention that. A good friend of mine, he's on paternity leave right now, and I said to him, you know, you're going to have the highs and lows, but you have to schedule those date nights. You
Hmm.
have to, as my wife calls our Friday nights are reconnecting. Just going out to dinner, just reconnecting, talking. Um, but you're so right, Cassie. I think that once you get married, you forget about the courtship, and then when the
Yeah.
kids come along, you just focus on them.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. So don't lose that, peeps. Love on each other.
Well, Cassie, thank you so much. Um, you've really inspired me to go and give this talk, and hopefully it will be hopefully I won't screw up too bad, but it's okay.
You are really amazing. You're a really great man, and I'm really grateful for what you're doing for blended families and dads out there, and now you know bringing a female onto the show, sharing the perspective where you kind of really gear it towards the dads and lifting them up. But it's really nice that to have that female under it too. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Well,
You're a great
Cassie, even though you are from the land of cheese, you have an open invite anytime. The next book comes out, or you launch your own podcast, whatever. You have an open invite.
guy. Oh, I appreciate it, and go Packers.
Yes, exactly. Go Bears. Thank you. The great thing is I can edit that out. Ha ha.